Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Oh, you wanted a clean car. At my job, we have a small carpool. I've started to notice that every time I have to drive somewhere, the cars would either be with some mechanical problem, without gas, dirty and messy, mud, old yogurt bottles, papers, old parts, etc. I've told again and again my coworkers that it's common courtesy to report those problems when they're found, to make an appointment to clean the car, which has no cost. We just have to check with the cleaner if he's available and give him the keys, and to leave the car with the tank full. Again, no cost, as the cars have their own card. I also noticed that I was always the one who made the appointment with the car cleaning company and reported the mechanical problems to the central car management. Since lately I'm doing more of an office job, I've stopped making any kind of appointment. It's been 3 months and the cars are filthy. One of them isn't even suitable to use. It doesn't close. Let's see how long my coworkers can drive in their own filth. And our second story, pro-divorce. Started a few years ago. I thought we were happy. We were your usual suburban professional couple, financially secure, healthy, 2 kids, 14-year-old female, 9-year-old male at the time. I thought we had a healthy social life. We were going through one of your typical married couple rough patches. Both of us were working long hours, not spending enough time together. I noticed that she was spending a lot more time on her phone, texting with her girlfriends. I didn't think much of it. I started making a much more concerted effort to get out of work when I could, help around the house, and be more emotionally available. But over the course of a few weeks, the gulf just kept getting wider. I ended up accidentally finding some messages when I charged up an old iPad for my son to use. Her Facebook Messenger was still logged in, and there were a lot of highly questionable messages with a guy from her hometown who I'll call Jim Bob Cooter, or JBC for short. The messages weren't completely inappropriate, but I could tell there were quite a few missing based on the times and context of the messages. I made a mental note to keep an eye on this and went about trying to fix things up. The next day, after I took the day off to knock out some projects that I thought would make her happy and left her some sweet notes reminding her how much I appreciated, she was once again in the corner of the living room texting her girlfriends. I took the boy's iPad to the office, opened up Facebook Messenger, and watched in real time as my wife tore me down. Her and JBC were making fun of me. All of my flaws, insecurities, and secrets I entrusted to my partner were now fodder for her and JBC. I managed to take some screenshots, but missed a good bit of the messages because as the conversation was unfolding, she was deleting them. I wasn't emotionally capable of confronting her. I stayed in the office until she was asleep and had a couple drinks. I took off the next day and spent some time soul-searching. The wife came home and wanted to know what was wrong, and I just copped out and told her I'd had a bad day. A couple minutes later, I was watching the iPad as the train wreck kept unfolding. So began a couple solid weeks of taking screenshots and detaching myself from the relationship. I knew there was no going back from this. The messages were now overtly sexual, with my wife completely into it, and JBC was sprinkling in I love yous. I consulted a lawyer and got my options and started moving forward. Here's where everything got absolutely surreal. Watching the messages, I found out JBC was coming to town to spend a weekend of quality time with my wife in a pretty nice hotel. I was missing a good bit of the info. They must have had a phone conversation about it at some point, but I was able to infer enough to get the when and where. Sure as crap, the next day the wife is buttering me up and wanting to take a spa weekend with the girls to relax, and when she gets back, we can really focus on our marriage. I go with it all the way. It's the greatest idea she's ever had, and I'll do anything to get us back on track. I get with the lawyer and have him draft a strong separation agreement stating that she would move out, she'd get weekend visitation, no child support in the interim until the divorce is final. After all this, most of my feelings for her are completely gone, and I'm just seething with anger like I've never felt before. D-Day arrives. I take the day off work. I withdraw half of any money in any accounts we are joint on, leave her half alone. I'd already redirected my paycheck to a new bank. I close our money market account and get a cashier's check for her half and deposit my half in my new account. I stop at Office Max and print out about 75 pages of Facebook Messenger screenshots. She texts me that she's taking off and that she loves me. I tell her to have fun. I show up at the hotel at about 8:30 and call the wife's phone from the lobby. It goes straight to voicemail. They're probably already at it. Whatever. I walk up to the front desk and ask if I can use the phone to be connected to JBC's room. It rings 3 times and he picks up. JBC. Hello? Me. JBC, can you send my wife down to the lobby, please? JBC. I don't know what you're talking about, bro. Me. Okay then, I guess I'll just have to call Mrs. JBC and get her down here. Totally a bluff. I knew he was married and I knew her first name, but that was it. JBC. Inaudible. Shuffling. Panic. Me. You got 5 minutes. Click. Not even 2 minutes later, my wife comes walking out of the elevator looking a little flustered. I sit her down in the corner of the lobby. Her starts spewing bullcrap, saying it's not what it seems, etc., etc. Me. I'm not here to argue. The things that are said in this pile of papers are what's going on. The only way I'm not giving a copy of this to our daughter, your parents, and emailing it to everyone we know is you move out immediately. Wife was very prideful, daughter was going through a rebellious teen phase, and her knowing probably would have killed their relationship. Wife was also her parents' golden child, and she always worried about what they thought of her. I didn't have much leverage, and shame was my only card to play. Also, her professional life is built up around her image, so I knew she'd protect that at all costs. Her, sniffle, mumble, inaudible. Me. This is a check for half of the money market account. I've withdrawn my half of the money from all the other joint accounts. You should have more than enough to get a place. She starts to cry a little. I could almost see the different thoughts and waves of emotions going through her, but now was the time to keep pressing. Me. Here's a separation agreement that I think is more than fair considering what's going on. I'm going to need you to look this over, sign it, and leave it at the house when you get your stuff. Do you want to look through these screenshots? Her. No. Me. Okay, go have fun with JBC. Don't come back to the house or I'm going to send this, I held up the ream of screenshots, to everyone. I bounce out of the lobby and I can hear her start to have a breakdown. I get to the car, drive off to a parking lot. I don't know what she did that night or over the weekend. She texted and called over and over wanting to talk. I just turned the phone off, and by the time Monday afternoon rolled around, there were movers getting her stuff, and she delivered the agreement. I let her have a talk with the kiddos, basically saying, Mommy and Daddy need some time apart. We still love you, etc., etc. Standard divorce talk. After a week, she wants to have a real talk for the first time. I oblige her because I've already got my crap together and I've got an idea of what I want, but I should hear her out. She's so sorry. She wants another chance. She wants her family back. She'll do anything. She's on her knees crying into my lap. I have no intention of ever taking her back. I tell her she needs to set up marriage counseling on her own at a time that works for me. I tell her that I can't live with her, but she should be around the children and try to maintain a relationship with them. I was never going to give her another chance. All I wanted to do was kill time, establish myself as the primary caregiver to the kids, and establish her as not having residency in the house. After a few months, I go to my own therapist and get diagnosed with depression and PTSD. I ask my work if it's possible to go to part-time for the foreseeable future to deal with personal issues, and it's no big deal. Once the divorce was filed, I needed the kids to want to stay with me. I left a Google search for how to survive your wife's infidelity up on the shared PC at home, and I left some printed out infidelity articles, not so hidden in the kitchen. My daughter found them and came to me crying. I told her she wasn't supposed to find those, that Mom made a mistake, that Mom still loves her, and that I would always be here for her. My daughter, who used to hold my wife in such high regard, now wouldn't talk to her without screaming, and it crushed her. Not surprisingly, when the court needed statements from the kids a few months later, little brother followed big sister's lead and they both wanted to stay with dad in the house they grew up in. When the divorce was finalized, I got the house, I got primary custody of the kids, I got awarded generous child support due to the difference in our incomes due to me working part-time. Now for the last 2 years, I've gotten to live in the house with my kids, work part-time, get the now ex to subsidize it for me, and when she takes the kids over the weekends, I get to have my fun with Tinderellas and some FWBs I've cultivated. In the eyes of my kids, I'm the patron saint of fatherhood for taking the high road and always being there. And our next story, in which our OP's great-grandfather punished a firewood thief in the most unusual way. Here we go. The case of the missing firewood. This happened when my grandfather was growing up in rural Kansas in the 40s and 50s, and is one of my favorite stories from him. Story. When my grandpa was growing up, he didn't have electricity, this being rural Kansas. What they did have was a wood-burning stove. At one point, firewood that great-grandfather had been storing began to disappear. A thief was afoot. My great-grandfather, getting tired of the firewood disappearing, hatches a plan. Great-grandfather takes some of the logs and drills them out, leaving a cavity. He then puts some gunpowder in the cavity and plugs the holes to hide his handiwork. That night, he tells my grandpa that he would bring in the firewood. Of course, he knows what logs he's messed with. Now, this is the funny part, and I wish I knew how embellished it was, but stranger things have happened. The next day, great-grandfather is walking into town and comes across a gentleman also headed into town, and they get to talking. Turns out the gentleman's going to town to make a purchase. The item he seeks? A new stove. He says to my grandfather, "I don't know what they're putting in the coal these days, but it destroyed my stove." No wood ever went missing again. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.